Well, happy Columbus Day, Indigenous Peoples Day. It is Monday, October 14th. I'm Greg Bishop, Illinois in Focus Daily. Get the podcast anywhere you get podcasts, but if you're able, join us each and every weekday morning at about 8 o'clock with America's Talking Network, where you can like, subscribe, hit that notification bell, and stay up to date with what's going on here in Illinois and elsewhere. We've got a couple of segments. Of course, it's a federal holiday, so no federal court for Mike Madigan and Michael McLean in that historic corruption trial. That will resume with jury selection on Tuesday in the federal court building up in the Northern District of Illinois in Chicago. So we'll definitely be talking about that again tomorrow. But we've also got a couple of other things that we're going to highlight today. One in particular, the issue of individuals who are children receiving sex and gender affirmation types of procedures. This is a pretty contentious issue, but a new report out with data shows just how many youth across the country and in various states like Illinois have received these types of procedures and intervention into puberty, for instance. So we'll touch on that as well here with Illinois in Focus Daily. Something else, too, right after a short break here, we'll look at what happened with the Trump rally over the weekend in California, where a man was arrested with firearms and fake IDs in an unregistered vehicle trying to get into the rally. So we'll touch on that as well. It's right here with Illinois in Focus Daily. I'm Greg Bishop. Be sure to like, subscribe, hit that notification bell, and join us each and every weekday morning as we bring you the latest in what you need to know to get your day going. Authorities say a man with weapons tried to enter a Trump rally on Saturday. It is Illinois in Focus. I'm Greg Bishop, and while this is a national news story, something I definitely think we need to cover. It was reported through the Center Square and elsewhere, but according to the story, this man had multiple firearms, an unregistered vehicle, and some fake IDs. Welcome in Illinois in Focus. I'm Greg Bishop. You can always get the podcast anywhere you get podcasts. Just search Illinois in Focus Daily. And like, subscribe, hit that notification bell with America's Talking Network. So as it's reported at thecentersquare.com, a Las Vegas man with a shotgun, loaded handgun, and high-capacity magazines in his vehicle was arrested at outside the California rally inside Riverside County. And the Sheriff's Department says that they approached former President Donald Trump's Saturday campaign event. The name of the individual and the sheriff was sure to put an asterisk next to it because, well, they had multiple identification. Them Miller stopped at a checkpoint set up about half a mile from the Trump rally when he told deputies that he had weapons in his trunk, and that's according to local media outlets. The Press Enterprise. Sheriff Chad Bianco said that Miller was illegally in possession of the weapons and that he believed Miller was attempting to assassinate Trump. But Miller himself told local media that he's a Trump supporter and the guns were for self-protection. So again, just some of the statements that police are reporting Miller provided whenever he was stopped. So it goes on to say that the sheriff, quote here, we probably stopped another assassination attempt. And this was something he addressed as well during a news conference yesterday, being asked, is that a dramatic statement? Here's what the sheriff had to say yesterday.
So this is what I'm glad of. This is what I am very glad of. I know that the presence that we had at the rally with deputies, with snipers, with counter snipers, and Secret Service snipers and counter snipers, I am glad that we're not talking about this after we shot him. We get to talk about it before, and no matter what, it's all going to be speculation about what his intentions were getting there. What we do know is he showed up with multiple passports with different names, an unregistered vehicle with fake license plate, and loaded firearms. If you're asking me right now, I probably did have deputies that prevented the third assassination attempt. If we are that politically lost, that we have lost sight of common sense and reality and reason, that we can't say that, holy crap, what did he show up with all of that stuff for and loaded guns, and I'm going to be accused of being dramatic. We have a serious, serious problem in this country, because this is common sense and reason. I saw some of you there yesterday. You didn't have guns and fake IDs. I don't know how else to explain it.
So again, that's the sheriff there in Riverside County in California, reacting to a statement of they probably stopped a third assassination attempt. But the suspect in this case, talking to media, again, telling local media outlets that these accusations are complete BS. Miller went on to say that he's an artist and he's the last person that would cause any violence and harm to anyone. So interesting, tidbits about this as well. The fake license plate, the sheriff said, seemed to be connected to the sovereign citizen movement, which, if you're not familiar with that, sovereign citizens are individuals who, don't believe in the power of the federal government over the individual. And you probably go down and do a deep dive into what a sovereign citizen is, but they're on the list of law enforcement of people to be, cautious and weary of. But with this individual having multiple fake IDs, being told that he was given a special VIP pass by somebody to attend the rally, apparently some other social media shows him at the Republican National Convention getting close to one of the former president's sons and taking pictures with other, right-leaning speakers and thinkers. So what's really going on here, not sure, but the sheriff again in Riverside saying that they probably stopped a third assassination attempt by putting this individual into custody. However, the individual released on bond. So we'll see what happens in this particular story as it continues to develop. A lot of attention on it, obviously, for clear reasons. The former president was shot in the ear several weeks ago, a second attempt, somebody outside his golf course in Florida. And now what some are saying is a third attempt being stopped. But we've got 2.5 weeks before the election, and November 5th can't come soon enough for a lot of people, I think. All right, it is Illinois in Focus Daily. I'm Greg Bishop. Like, subscribe, hit that notification bell with America's Talking Network, and join us each and every weekday morning, breaking things down for you to better understand what's going on in your world. Federal courts not open today, and we do have a development in the concealed carry case that was decided by a district judge and put up to appeal, but the appeals court kicked it back. Some pretty interesting things happening there. Welcome back, Illinois in Focus Daily. You be sure to like, subscribe, hit that notification bell, and stay up to date. Of course, we've been tracking the gun ban litigation in the Southern District of Illinois Federal Court. No updates, really, since the conclusion of the bench trial in September. So they had 30 days to file briefs on text history and tradition. So we'll see when those briefs get filed. Could be on the deadline that they're supposed to file, which I believe is either the 20th or the 21st 31st of this month. And then we could possibly get a ruling from Judge Stephen McGlynn at some point thereafter. But there's another case we've been tracking as well, and that's the case challenging Illinois' prohibition on concealed carry when it comes to mass transit. That's the Schoenthal v. Raoul case. And this is an interesting kind of timeline where we're at now. But the latest development is that the district judge has amended his judgment to make it more clear to the appeals court as to what his decision was. But this case was filed back in 2022, and the case being one challenging the ban of concealed carry license holders who get a license from state police to carry concealed firearms. When that law was passed a decade plus ago, the state did put some parameters on where people could or could not carry firearms. One of those being public transit. 2022 rolls around, people sue. In the Northern District, they file their briefs. And then the federal judge in late September, actually, no, it was late August. So late August, federal judge declares that the prohibition's unconstitutional here in Illinois to prohibit individuals with concealed carry licenses to file to be able to carry on mass transit. So the state then motioned for an appeal, but they also motioned for the federal district judge to hold his order pending that appeal. But in that motion, they essentially said that, not a direct quote, but how it was interpreted by the judge, that 3 days after the judge's order in this, 4 people were shot and killed on a Chicago CTA blue line. So the judge reading that demanded they come back into court, chastised the attorneys for trying to link the judge's order about lawful concealed carry holders that sued having their Second Amendment rights violated, having nothing to do with people getting murdered on a CTA. And if you recall, we talked about this in some detail. The judge demanding to know whether or not the assailant in that case had a concealed carry license, whether he shot those 4 individuals for self-defense purposes. Answers did not come from the state defendants in this. They had no answers. And then the questions also went into how many concealed carry license holders have been arrested for carrying concealed firearms in mass transit. They didn't have an answer for that. How many people with concealed carry have actually used that concealed carry on mass transit to protect themselves? They didn't have an answer to that. But ultimately, the judge, after grilling these attorneys, not sanctioning them, but grilling them, he denied their motion to hold his order. But the appellate court had already said that the order from the judge in the district level was deficient, and they kicked it back to the lower courts to clear that up. Well, on Friday, the lower court, the district court in Chicago, did indeed clear that up. So here is the filing that was made on the 11th. It says plaintiff's request for injunction relief is denied. The court enters judgment in favor of defendants Rick Amato and Eric Reinhart, and the claims against them are dismissed without prejudice for lack of subject matter jurisdiction. So they were terminated from the case. But the court enters judgment in favor of Benjamin Schoenthal, granting declaratory relief against Kwame Raoul, Kimberly Fox, and Robert Berlin in their official capacities that the Firearm Concealed Carry Act's ban on carrying concealed firearms on public transit as defined by the statutes violates the Second Amendment as applied to Benjamin Schoenthal carrying a concealed firearm for self-defense on Metra and on Metra's real property to the extent necessary to ride Metra. The court enters judgment in favor of plaintiffs Mark Roboletsky, Joseph Vessel, and Douglas Winston, granting declaratory relief against Kwame Raoul and Kimberly Fox in their official capacities that the Firearm Concealed Carry Act's ban on concealed carry firearms on public transit as defined by the state statute violates the Second Amendment as applied to Mark Roboletsky carrying a concealed firearm for self-defense on Metra and on Metra's real property to the extent necessary to ride Metra. Joseph Vessel carrying a concealed firearm for self-defense on Metra and the CTA and Metra and the CTA's real property to the extent necessary to ride Metra and CTA, and Douglas Winston carrying a concealed firearm for self-defense on Metra and CTA and on Metra and CTA's real property to the extent necessary to ride Metra and CTA. Signed, Ian Johnston, Federal District Judge, October 11th, 2024. So it looks like the judge in the district court making that clear and sending that off back to the appeals courts as the state's expected to take this all the way. So that's just the latest update here. Of course, it's a federal holiday, so no federal courts, but we will be watching to see developments in this case, but also other cases challenging Illinois gun laws. It's right here with Illinois in Focus Daily. Like, subscribe, hit that notification bell. Join us each and every weekday morning as we break down things for you to know to get your day going. It's right here with Illinois in Focus Daily. The Center Square's Voters' Voices poll shows a majority of voters are favor in a federal ban on transgender procedures for minors. Welcome back, Illinois in Focus Daily. Like, subscribe, hit that notification bell, and you can see the story here about the Voters' Voices poll through the Center Square. And most registered voters, 59%, support a federal ban on transgender procedures such as puberty blockers and gender reassignment surgeries for minors. We'll delve a bit more into this, but we do have numbers from the organization Do No Harm highlighting how prevalent this is. So let's check that out here. And the database is called the Stop the Harm database. So you can go to the website, which is stoptheharmdatabase.com, and you can see this for yourself. But let's take a look here. You've got the entirety of the country covered. It looks like they gave 3 different categories: the Dirty Dozen hospitals, other states that allow gender-affirming care for minors, Illinois being one of those, and states with age limits on gender-affirming care for minors. What they did is they delved into data from insurance companies, looking at a variety of different metrics and all of the things that they have when it comes to filing a claim for insurance. These databases apparently are sold, and they may be made anonymous, but still you can see some of these numbers. So you can click through and check out all the various states, but for Illinois, it breaks it down saying there's 418 total sex change patients. And again, these are minors, children. 211 total surgery patients, 212 total hormone and puberty blocker patients, and total prescriptions written 1615. So 1,615 procedures. Total submitted charges $644,000. And this is just from 2019 to I think 2023. But we know that this is something that's been happening at least at one particular institution, Lurie's Children's Hospital in Chicago. They talk about on their website how they started this back in 2013, and some of the things that they discuss include gender expansive or gender nonconforming children getting these types of treatments. You've got gender questioning youth, transgender and gender fluid youth. In their philosophy, they say, for even the most loving, affirming, and resilient families, navigating childhood gender identity development can be confusing. It can become more challenging as our patients and their families encounter difficulties posed by others, including extended family members, school officials, and other community members. We navigate these challenges by providing our families with education, exceptional and affirming clinical care, support, and ongoing consultation to ensure that children and families flourish safely in the environment that is both nurturing and affirming. So it goes through and talks more about all of the different services and how people can get their children into these services. But we'll talk a little bit more about some of the things they have to say and some of the totals that they share, including more than 2,000 families they say have been assisted by their program. But I connected with Awake Illinois founder and president Shannon Adcock. She's a parents' rights organization here in Illinois, not part of Do No Harm, but we talked about the Do No Harm numbers and how they. What's her reaction to these particular numbers?
Sure. Well, Do No Harm is a great nonprofit organization, and they are pretty new relative to advocacy organizations, but they hit the ground running and compiled a really great group of physicians, pediatricians, parents, mental health professionals, all who share the concerns over what is happening with the medicalization of children under this harmful term or phrase called gender affirming care. And so this database is the first and only across the country where parents can finally learn who are the practitioners engaging in this medicalization of children that has already been stopped in Europe at Tavistock, that closed their gender clinic. And now people here in America are waking up to the harms that have been done to patients around the world. And it will be stopped here. And I believe this Stop the Harm database, again, the first and only of its kind, is going to help parents know which providers they should avoid if they share these concerns over this practice of medicalizing children.
So talking with Shannon on Friday, talked about the method that they put out. Do No Harm putting together a white paper explaining the types of things that they collected to provide this data.
They do. Well, it was a really intensive dive, and they had people who are practitioners, medical practitioners, mental health practitioners, look at the billing codes, look at the ways in which these gender clinics and hospitals and practitioners were getting compensated for puberty blocker prescriptions, for top surgery removal, where girls have their healthy breasts removed for gender reassignment, where genitals of children are being modified. So many different things that are affecting their endocrine function, their hormones, and their physical growth and development. That again, physicians around the world have sounded the alarm. They continue to. And so Do No Harm has compiled this with, again, a pretty intensive dive, very highly credible. The numbers, at least out of Illinois, certainly where we are very conservative. So they wanted to make sure that the data was good in terms of how they were compiling the patient totals and the compensation totals that were billed by these clinics.
And again, Adcock saying conservative numbers. Let's take another look at those numbers, where 418 total sex change patients in Illinois, 211 total surgeries, total hormone and puberty blocker patients, 212. $644,000. And again, this is from 2019 through 2023. It even breaks down the hospitals in Illinois conducting these types of operations on children, and Lurie's Children's Hospital being top of the list with $274,000. But people can actually go through and find all of the various clinics and hospitals that are doing this. And there's 5 pages worth of hospitals that are actually, I think it's more than that. Let's see here. It goes all the way down to 7 pages worth of clinics in Illinois that are doing these types of operations. But does it go far enough? Does it actually tell the whole story? Adcock saying good first attempt here, but there's a lot more going on.
Well, it's a start. It's a start. Yeah, it's a start because this data is actually compiled from 2019 to 2023. And for example, in Illinois, Lurie Children's Gender Clinic opened in 2013. And in 2016, the director of that clinic said that they were struggling to keep up with demand, that they had hundreds of families who were wanting this gender transition medicalization done to their children, or were very concerned about the mental health issues with their children and were guided wrongly down this path. And we've now uncovered so many of the harms that have been done to patients. WPATH is another organization of physicians that have pushed this medicalization of children. And so when you look at how this data only goes back to 2019, it does not cover out-of-pocket patients who did not use a healthcare provider or insurance rather, or Medicaid. And also Kaiser, which isn't as big here in Illinois, but around the country, they weren't able to include that data because, again, they wanted it to be proven, they wanted it to be good, but out of pocket is not covered, and anything before 2019 isn't covered either. So again, this was very conservative, but we know that, primary care doctors are being referred from Lurie Children's to handle this type of procedure, medicalization of children, whether it's puberty blockers or consulting for surgeries. So it's not all necessarily going to be billed under a hospital per se. It could be these satellite clinics or providers who are doing this medicalization of children.
So when talking with Shannon, she also is pretty knowledgeable in how this has gotten to this point. What's driving this push for young people to change their gender, to get hormone therapy, to have surgeries done? What's really behind this?
There are many things driving this agenda, and much of it is misinformation. And that's also on the part of providers, it's on the part of counselors, and it's on the part of parents, because lies have been told for several years now, rooted in terrible, terrible case studies that have had no integrity whatsoever. They have been absolutely, criticized by doctors. The gender clinics that were using these studies in Europe were caught, basically. These studies had absolutely no integrity to them, but there was a lot of money invested in the medicalization and sterilization under the guise of gender affirming care. So there's a lot of profit to be made. There's a lot of money that rolls into this. And oftentimes patients are on treatment for life because of how disrupted their endocrine function is. Their hormones are so disrupted that they end up having to be on pharmaceuticals for the rest of their lives because of the trauma done to their bodies. Now, when you look at the trauma done to children, a lot of times this is happening from what could be conceived as a contagion, in a way where there are confused children, they're in puberty, and they're in a school or in a setting where it is celebrated to be confused about your gender. And it leads to these pathways, whether it is through sexual education in school or counselors who think it's very noble to talk about gender reassignment and all of these medicalization and sterilization procedures. It starts with a conglomerate of things, many different influences, social media. But the concern is that the lies are being told to parents, to children, that this is somehow healthy for their growing and developing bodies. And that science has been debunked. And yet the Stop the Harm database is showing parents that there are practitioners who continue to double down on the harms of this medicalization, and they need to know where they may want to avoid taking their children should they be confused, should they be dealing with mental health issues. Parents do not want to see their children wrongly harmed as they are growing into adulthood.
And again, we're talking about youth here, not adults. Adults making their own decisions on whatever kind of procedures they want to have done to them, elective procedures that they want to have done to them. This is focused on children. And again, back to the voters' voice poll from the Center Square, most registered voters, 59%, support a federal ban on transgender procedures such as puberty blockers and gender reassignment surgeries for minors. Strongest support for a federal ban came from registered Republicans, while the lowest amount of support came from registered Democrats. Independents, they offered a major support for a ban with 56 in favor. So again, that's a survey of 2,600 registered voters across the country from Noble Predictive Insights. So, back to Adcock here, some other thoughts that she had about where we're at in this space.
Parents in Illinois, unfortunately, have to work so much harder than in other states that do provide protections to children, that prohibit this terrible medicalization of their bodies, their sterilization of their growing bodies. And so in Illinois, young children could potentially get access to any number of resources or lies that are perpetuated, whether it is in a public school, whether it is via a counselor, or their peers. And so I think it's really important that parents absolutely start talking to their children from a very, very young age, and also vet their pediatricians. Look at the WPATH list of doctors in Illinois. If your pediatrician or primary care doctor is on that list, do not go to them, because they are going to engage in this horrible medicine known as gender affirming care, which will be stopped. It will be stopped. But parents have to be so vigilant in a way that perhaps they might not have to be in other states. But across the country, Do No Harm organization, through this Stop the Harm database, they are absolutely empowering parents to pay attention to the practitioners and encouraging parents to be the barrier between your child and any influence that's going to try and indoctrinate them into these lies that's harming patients. So January Littlejohn is a friend of mine. She is with Do No Harm. She had a child that was at school, and counselors wrongly kept secrets from her, from the mom, from the dad, and they tried to socially transition the daughter. And January says parents need to inoculate their children against this agenda from whatever direction they're seeing it, but to be mindful of the practitioners who are engaging in this medicalization, which is so very harmful. Parents have to talk to their children about this from a very young age.
So again, one of the top clinics that provide this service in Illinois, Lurie's Children's Hospital in Chicago. And if you look at their website, they have a post from 2020 2023. It says, study, gender-affirming hormones improve mental health in transgender and non-binary youth. And they say the evidence is from the largest study in the U.S. on the impact of gender-affirming hormones with longest follow-up. And it goes on to talk about the results and says many transgender or non-binary teens experience gender dysphoria or persistent distress caused by discrepancy between their gender identity and physical appearance. Gender-affirming hormones are used as treatment to foster gender-congruent secondary sex characteristics such as breast development or facial hair. So it goes on to talk about this study, Lurie's Children's Hospital, saying that the study is including 315 transgender non-binary youth between 12 and 20. Goes on to talk more about what they found overall. Appearance congruence, positive effect, and life satisfaction increased while depression and anxiety symptoms decreased. I'm curious what the longest term care for is in this space. Interesting to see both sides of this, but as was discussed by Adcock, this has been put to a halt in Europe, and you've got other countries that are banning these transgender procedures on children in their countries. This U.S. has a patchwork of states, obviously, but Illinois, allows for minors to have these procedures and hormone blockers and such. Adcock saying that it's imperative that people keep an eye on what's going on in Illinois with these types of policies.
Well, when we did the enormous advocacy grassroots lobby effort against House Bill 4876, which was filed by Rep. Anstava Murray in the 81st District, right now she is getting a lot of criticisms from her district and from the state when she leaned into this agenda that would have changed the state code to call parents child abusers if they did not permit medicalization and sterilization of their children under this gender affirming care, this horrible, evil, harmful agenda. And so I think that when that was filed, that was a wake up call to many Democrats who saw this as a losing issue. They do not want to be on the wrong side of the parental rights battle. They do not want to be perceived as critics of parents who are, have the fundamental rights to raise their children and to handle their medical care and their education. So Anstava Murray got, I think, so much pushback that this is an issue that, of course, we're going to keep very close eye on. I think if Anstava Murray gets reelected, she will still try and double down somehow on this agenda. But she didn't have a ton of support when it came to this particular issue of going against parents who are concerned for their children right now on this issue. So we're going to keep a close eye on it. But in my opinion, you look at what's happening with women's sports around the country, parents and citizens are really unifying on this issue of getting back to basics. Biology matters. There are males, there are females. There are growing bodies that deserve to be protected and to go through normal puberty and to grow into adulthood without medicalization and sterilization and all of these harmful applications that are being done by these clinics. So parents have to go to the Stop the Harm database to get as much information as they can to protect their children.
Again, I appreciate Shannon Adcock talking with me about this controversial issue, no question, and we'll be watching as to what kinds of developments there are in this space with Illinois in Focus Daily and the Center Square. Get the podcast anywhere you get podcasts. Just search Illinois in Focus and subscribe, hit that notification bell to wake up with us each and every weekday morning for America's Talking Network. It's Illinois in Focus Daily. I'm Greg Bishop. Appreciate you taking the time with us. All right, that's all I got for you on this Monday. It's going to be an interesting week. I'm going to be on the road a little bit here and there. Got some events to attend in Chicagoland area, some news conferences to capture. So we'll talk about pensions. We'll talk about a variety of other things. We've also got our reporter with the Center Square, Jim Talamonte. He's going to be in the federal court throughout the week with the Madigan trial ongoing, so we'll be watching that as well. But with 2.5 weeks before the election, we're going to have to start talking a lot about that also. Hopefully I worked all the bugs out. I know that there's been some glitching with the stream health and the audio seeming to drop here and there, but I think I have figured it out. All right, added a new streamer device with some of the other devices that we've got here to make sure that we can get on the air for you. So be sure to like, subscribe, hit that notification bell as we continue forward with Illinois in Focus Daily. I'm Greg Bishop. Thank you so much for being part of the program. And don't forget, if you get up early enough and you watch live, you can check out the live chat, which is pretty active. So you can take part in a variety of different conversations and provide your thoughts as well as to what we're covering here with Illinois in Focus Daily. Have a great rest of your Monday, and we'll see you back here tomorrow.
Regret.